We will call to order the September 10th meeting of the Caroline County Board of Supervisors. Let the record show that all members are present. Representing the Western Caroline District is Mr. Jeff Black. Representing Bowling Green is Mr. Jeff Seeley. Representing Reedy Church is Mr. Reggie Underwood. Representing Madison is Mr. Wayne Akers. Representing Port Royal is Mr. Calvin Taylor. And I'm Floyd Thomas, representing the Mattaponi District. I've asked Mr. Underwood if he would deliver us an invocation to be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Can we all stand, please? Most gracious Heavenly Father, once again I come before you asking for your blessings, asking you to be here tonight with us as we discuss the business of Caroline County. Oh Heavenly Father, give us wisdom, give us insight. Continue to bless us, continue to guide us. We give all thanks, we give all praise in your precious name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Join with me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Coley, amendments to the agenda?
We have one item we'd like to add to the consent agenda is approval of purchase of sheriff's cars. It's at your place.
We have that. You sent an email to the rest of the board or just me?
Everybody's got copies up on their place.
Okay.
I think the email was just back and forth with you.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Akers.
I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda to add under presentations a presentation from the Caroline County Education, Recreation, and Wellness Foundation. Members are here tonight, and I would like to amend the agenda to include a short 3-minute presentation from that group.
I'll second that motion.
I thought, Mr. Akers, you and I had this conversation an hour or so ago. This wasn't on the agenda, primarily because we didn't know anything about it. So is it all right if they speak at 7:30 of public comments?
Well, the problem is the fact some of the members have already indicated that they could not stay until 7:30. And in fact, most of them, they have other things to do this evening. You and I did speak, Mr. Chairman, you're absolutely correct. But we did request for it to be put on the agenda last week. Staff put it on the agenda, and as you went over the agenda, you removed it from the agenda. And,
right, not knowing what it was, and them not having, following the process, they had not made or you had not made a presentation to staff, so staff was unaware when they briefed me. But I will be happy to carry your motion, Mr. Akers. You've made a motion.
I have just one question. At what point has any member of this board been told that you had to make a presentation to staff in order to get something on the agenda?
I believe that's been our process.
I don't know
for a new project. I see Mr. Seeley and Mr. Black agreeing. That's something we've never heard of. And in this case, I think the email trail of Mr. Parton, when I first saw it, is why is this not going to the Recreation Department since it was Caroline Recreation and so forth?
It is strictly a foundation of concerned citizens that want to do what they can to help the citizens of Caroline County. And so it's not recreation only. It is.
I'm going to carry your motion, Mr. Akers.
There is a motion on the floor.
I'm going to carry the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay.
Nay, just for process purposes.
I too for process. All right, well, we will add that. Subsequently, we have a presentation that the chair neglected to put on the agenda. And if we're going to do the same thing, that is the Caroline Sunday School Union wanted to talk about that. They had previously sent information, I think, to Mr. Seeley, and I forwarded to staff. So we'll do the same thing. Add that.
Make a motion.
Mr. Taylor, you had a question?
Well, no, not about that. I did want to make an amendment, if I could, to the agenda.
Sure. Let us do this one first, and we'll do yours. We'll take a motion to that effect.
I'll second the motion, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Mr. Taylor, you had a question?
Right, and I don't know that this will be necessary, but we're planning a boundary adjustment for public hearing
You should
for the
save that
boundary
for-
adjustment.
You should save that for board comment.
Okay, but I just wanted to ask if there were board members who had questions or concerns prior to the public hearing, which is the 24th. And since it's not on the agenda tonight, board members would not have an opportunity to ask questions about it or to talk about it. So,
If you save that for public comments, we'll address it and make a motion of public comments. We were just doing agenda addendum, and then we'll add that if you would like to add that when you do board comments.
that's
Okay?
fine. That's fine.
Mr. Black, board comments.
Not at this time.
Mr. Seeley.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sure most of you read the letter that I wrote to the citizens of Caroline County, and for these comments to be entered into the record for the Board of Supervisors, I won't reread them tonight. I'll hand them to the clerk, but it's just to reiterate the transparency of the process we've been through for the YMCA.
That was it.
That's it.
Mr. Underwood.
Mr. Chairman, in addition to what Mr. Seeley said regarding the letter to the newspaper, my concern deals more with making sure that we are talking to each other, not at each other. And while we agree that from time to time there are problems that you run into and processes that we run into, and even things you do right sometimes don't turn out right. I'm reminded in the Bible where the ark was about to fall, and if many of you read the Bible, you know that a good man reached out to keep the ark from falling, and he fell to his death. Not that he had bad intention, but certainly he yet didn't understand the process. So sometimes you can have right intention, but things don't work out that way. And I think we have to be cognizant and mindful of that as we try to move forward as a board. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I always have trouble with that because he was told not to touch the ark.
Good man. We told a lot of things, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Akers.
Mr. Chairman, based on Mr. Underwood's remarks, I don't know that I could follow it very well, so I have no comments at this point.
Okay, the only comment I have is, again, as I was saying, we have the public hearing on the 24th for the Port Royal boundary adjustment. And I didn't know if board members had questions about it, or if they wanted to, felt like we need another meeting, or to meet with the town council. And by there not being anything on the agenda, we would not have an opportunity to do that. So I would just like to add it to the agenda, and if at that time, board members have questions.
Add a question and answer period about
Right, just an update on the boundary adjustment and an opportunity for board members to have questions or if they have concerns.
Item 7A, unless there's an objection. We'll just take that.
Okay, 7A.
7A. Port Royal boundary adjustment discussion. Is that it, Mr. Taylor?
That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay. Two things real quick. One is the floor shop next to the county administration building sent a letter to me, and I kind of passed it to staff, asking if the county was interested in purchasing additional land behind the floor shop. I'm just having a brain cramp. What's her name, Pam? Joyce, Flowers by Joyce. The place next to the county administration, they don't need space in the back, so it could expand our parking. I don't know if the board wanted to go ahead and have the staff look at that to make sure it was there, or if we'll just let staff look at it and then come back and tell us later on, which would be fine. The other thing is that I would like a motion or a little discussion is we talked about how we would pay the health department, in particular after the health department's presentation. I don't want to overstep my boundaries, but I definitely told the health department that since they plan on taking money from us to apply to last year's budget's shortfall, that we would only pay them for services they incur. And I wanted to make sure that's the way the rest of the board felt and be sure.
Mr. Chairman, one of the other questions we asked was how much rent was the dental department actually being charged? And they were supposed to come back with that figure as well, because they are definitely being charged additional for that space that was coming out of, that the health department was taking out of that budget as well. So I think there are a couple of items that need to be answered when we go forward with that.
Right.
We're going to have to deduct that from the rent that we're charging the health department currently. So we're going to measure up the space that they're using, working with Rod Manifold and his folks.
And the new folks.
Now, when we talk,
Go ahead.
when we talk about refunding them what their costs are, have they given you any estimates? Because we had discussion back in July, I believe it was, and 1st of August, whereas we said we'd said $30,000 that the county was going to give up, but then they wanted to keep $30-some thousand, $39,000 or something thereabouts out of the money that we had given them for this year. So what are we talking about?
Well, we're talking about, and I wanted to make sure that we direct staff to not just forward. What normally happens is every quarter, every month, we send a check. It's quarterly, Mrs. Hatcher? So we sent the first quarter's payment already. So this is the end of the first quarter. In October, we would normally send them a check. But what I believe is going to happen is the health department will use some of the money that we've identified for services for county residents to pay last year's shortfall, which we had nothing to do with. So we are not going to pay the health department in October. We are going to make sure the health department sends us bills, and we will pay those bills, thus ensuring that they don't use our money to pay last year's shortfall. That's really the purpose of it, because we have a certain amount of money budgeted directly for citizens of the county, and I'm sure if the state said they had a shortfall, the federal government wouldn't give them money for the previous year. So they can't take money back from us. So we're not going to pay them monthly or quarterly like we did, if that's the will of the board.
Yep.
So is that?
That's what we discussed, and they were supposed to bill us for what they thought
they
the
do.
services were that they rendered minus the dental.
Right.
Okay. We accounted for the dental separate, so we were going to pay for dental after the 30th of September, and we didn't write them a check for that additional $30,000. They never got that, and so we'll just take the dental, divide that by 12, and they got their quarter payment on that already, and so the rest of it we weren't going to pay them anyway for dental.
And how are we going to work out the rent portion of that?
We're going to measure up the space. We know what the square footage we're charging, and we'll have to deduct that out of what their rent is, and we got to work a memorandum. We'll hopefully have at the 24th meeting of September with the new folks, Central Virginia Health Network, to whether we're going to waive rent for a couple of years to let them get established, or however y'all want to proceed with that.
Yeah, but they paid us directly. Or we waived their payment. So.
We waived it.
Yeah. Okay. That's the end of board comments. We've got the GED graduates, VDOT, Virginia Retirement, Stormwater Plan, then we're going to do the foundation, and then we're going to do the Sunday School Union. So, I want to say Mrs. Blanton, because that's all we ever said.
There she is.
Okay, I've been looking for my glasses. Mrs. Blanton, how are you today? We're doing well. Are you still in charge of this program like you have been for years and years?
I'm still around. I'm one of the ones involved in the program.
Okay, well, we have a list of all of the certificates that we have from folks that you've just gone through, and we would like all of the GED graduates
Right.
and all of the folks that helped them get their GED to come forward.
Okay.
So we could recognize them, and I will pass you these so you can distribute these at a later time.
Okay. let me thank you first for having us here tonight and allowing us to be here to recognize our graduates. We are a GED program, which is primarily and totally for those who have not yet gotten their high school diploma. We have worked through the Rappahannock Area Regional Adult Education Department, and we worked through there from September, the middle of September to end of May. But in the other time during the year, we work through the Caroline Literacy Council. We always hear about Caroline County being so backwards and so not going forward. But we are the only locality in Planning District 16 to have a functioning literacy council, which is now being required, I think, by the State Department of Education for all localities. But we do that, and we have volunteers, and thank you for your support monetarily and through telling people, getting the word out. And I know you all have constituents meetings. Please help us get the word out that we have this program in the county and classes for people who want to get their GEDs. And thank you again for all of your support toward education.
Thank you, Mrs. Blanton. Now, who's in charge of the Literacy Council now?
Gloria Belechik is the president. Vanessa Way is the coordinator.
Okay.
And
Are they here?
yes, they're both here. I don't know if they're in here.
I
Vanessa's
see
here.
Mrs. Ware only because I walked past her earlier.
Yeah.
I can't see that far. So Mrs. Ware come down, and the other lady was,
Gloria Belechik.
where's she?
Way in the back, far left.
We're registering students as we speak, so she might have gone back to the classroom.
See, they stood up. Thank you for making it easy for me. If you ladies would come down too so we could recognize you.
We also have another teacher, Marsha Hayes, who's another teacher in the program.
And Mrs. Hayes can come too.
We have 3 graduates here tonight.
3?
3.
Okay.
Quentin Parker, Vilma Garcia, Nicole Cook. Now, I think those are the only 3.
Now, they will, of course, have to stand up because I can't see past you.
Quentin.
Is that Mr. Parker?
That's Mr. Parker.
And the young lady is
Nicole Cook.
Nicole Cook.
The other young lady is Vilma Garcia.
Good job.
If they would come down too, please. Quentin Parker, Vilma Garcia, and Nicole Cook. Now I'll give them the rest of them. Okay. Congratulations to you folks. It's a great achievement. And if you would come on stage, please, I will personally, or the board will personally present you with your certificates, and we'll give the rest to Mrs. Blank. You can stay there. Guys, we don't have a film crew, so you want to just stay here? You can just stay behind your seat. There's nobody to take pictures. Oh, hey, that's Gilman? Good, Troy? Alston? So, Vilma Garcia, congratulations to you. Now, Ms. Cook, how are you? Congratulations.
How are you? Congratulations.
And Mr. Parker, congratulations, sir. Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Ms. Garcia, don't leave.
How you doing? Congratulations. Yes, sir.
We want you folks to come. If you come on to the board, we're going to get a couple graduates, if you would line up right here in front of the flag. We want to get kind of claim some of your graduation. Alan's going to take it. And we'll put the teachers behind them, and then we'll be behind the teachers. All right. Alan, you're not going to be really hard about this, are you? Ladies, if you would stand right behind the graduates. So we've got the graduates, the teachers. We're going to see you up in the front. This is where you stand right here on the corner. Right here. Stop trying to hide yourself. Come on, get up there. Okay. Now, we're going to be behind them. Stand behind them. Okay. Mr. Barton, can you make this happen? Yes, come on, you're that good? Okay. Again, to the graduates, thank you very much. And I think the rest of the board wants to say thank you. Great job. Congratulations again. Mrs. Blanton? Yes. These are the rest of your students, and I'm sure the rest of the board wants to shake your hand again and say congratulations. That way.
Take care.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Who's the gentleman in the back with all the medals? Sergeant Major? Very well, and yourself? Anybody with all those ribbons on his chest automatically gets my attention. What can we do for you? You just hanging out? Where did you hang out last?
I was last on 80 Hill, so slowly making my way here.
Before that, Sergeant Major.
Oh, gosh, I was in Europe, sir.
Okay. Not the Middle East?
Was there several times.
We appreciate your service, Sergeant Major.
It is absolutely my honor to serve.
It's always good to feel the protection of the United States Army, isn't it? Okay, the VDOT report, Mrs. Parker? Mrs. Parker's not here. Ah, and you are not Mr. Duval.
I am not Mr. Duval, nor am I Miss Parker. I am Sean.
I wasn't even going to go there with you, man. Okay.
Good evening, members of the board, chairman, county staff. I'm Sean Nelson. I'm the assistant residency administrator for Fredericksburg Residency, and I will be giving you your briefing this afternoon on transportation. I wanted to go over some of our construction projects. Well, the one construction project that we have going on currently in Caroline County, Route 600 bridge replacement over Boot Swamp. We're currently a month ahead of schedule and plan to be finished sometime in November, December. On our preliminary engineering side, the Lady Smith Road project on Route 639, we anticipate advertisement for construction in October of 2013. The Route 633 bridge replacement over South River, the bids will be received in about 2 weeks on September 25th, and we anticipate potentially going to construction sometime between November and January. Route 654 bridge replacement over Reedy Creek. The design is underway, and we anticipate advertisement for construction in October, so within a month. I also wanted to go over some of the projects that we have finished with our maintenance forces. We have finished turning Route 751 Coleman Town Road from, it was a real rustic project where we turned it from a unpaved road into a recently paved road. We did 751 Coleman Town Road, 741 Faulkner Lane, and 690 Old CC Road. I guess the last time we had a meeting here was in, I believe it was July or May, when we had a representative here, and we had an issue from Mr. Black, a concern on Route 639 in regards to at 639 on Route 1, the intersection with the stoplight having backups. Last year we adjusted that signal to the maximum time. in the mornings to kind of alleviate the issues that we're backing up in front of the school. We've maxed it out, and we have traffic engineering looking at it right now to see if they can figure out if there's any other type of malfunctions with that signal. So we're looking at it right now to try to see if we can alleviate the concerns.
Are you finished?
That's all I
We're going to wait for you to finish before we ask questions.
That's all I had from you guys.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Black?
The problem seems to be, and it seems to come in waves when I get calls from some of the people who commute and so forth. It's some of the times that they're saying to me that it's backed up to the school. At the last meeting with Lake Landor, their HOA meeting, POA meeting, they said some of the backups occurring at 4:15 in the morning. And really, really early in the morning, extremely backed up. And so that's kind of a major concern. And when I would call Mr. Duval, it was, and I think Mr. Culley had also worked on this as well. It seems to resolve itself for about a month or two, and then I get the calls again in waves. You know, and I mean, when I go to the constituent meetings or the HOA meetings, it comes back to me again and again and again. So Mr. Duval had talked about, and I couldn't find it, but a short-term, they were doing something short-term, but there was going to be some sort of long-term solution that they were going to repair the light or whatever. That was one of the last conversations that I think Mr. Culley had also had with Mr. Duval about that light. So there is a concern there because, you know, the traffic going, you know, from Lake Landor towards east at, you know, if you're talking 4:15 in the morning, we shouldn't have a backup on Ladysmith Road.
Okay, well, like I say, I'll have our traffic engineering people continue to look into that, and if it is a malfunctioning issue, we'll try to get that fixed as soon as possible.
Okay. The second thing that I have for you is at the Lake Landor subdivision, any sort of, basically, if I'm on the Heritage side of Lake Landor turning right, or I'm on the Landor side of Lake Landor turning left, the traffic coming from the Childsburg, Spotsylvania area, and I've experienced this too myself, the traffic coming around that corner, there is one sign that, you know, says, you know, there's an HOA or, you know, incoming traffic, but the traffic around there can be ripping. I mean, you can look and nothing's fine, and then the next minute, you know, you've got some car going 55 miles an hour coming at you on a left-hand turn. So if you guys could take a look at, they were concerned with, you know, that turn about some of the speed coming around, and I understand, you know, you can say, well, that's kind of the sheriff, but it's not really, because, you know, I think the sheriff's department could sit there all day and people are going to still come around that corner. So maybe some more signs, a flashing light or something, you know, as far as near the, and that's coming from the west, okay, the Spotsylvania County line.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
And the last thing, Mr. Akers had mentioned this too as well, and it's just outside of my district, but I actually got some people who are fellow teachers that mentioned as well. If I'm in a Bridlewood subdivision, okay, and I'm turning left to go onto Ladysmith Road, okay, it is very, very difficult to see the traffic coming from the Lake Landor subdivision. It is extremely difficult to see around that corner. And Mr. Akers, I know, had mentioned that at the last meeting, and I'm afraid we're going to, I mean, because the people are going about 45, 50, 55 miles an hour there. I'm afraid someone's going to, you just have no reaction time whatsoever. And I don't know if there's a way that they can clear out some brush, because it is very, very difficult to see to the right.
Okay, we can look at that to see if there's any sight distance issues there.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Seeley?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Mr. Nelson. One question. We talked about this with Ms. Parker and Mr. Duval. Is there a schedule for the 721 bridge over Maricasa Creek there by the fire station for replacement? We've talked about that being on the federal highways list. We've talked about it, you know, being looked at. I've never really gotten a good answer as to where we are with that.
As of right now, I don't have that in my notes, but I can get with our bridge engineer and get you an answer.
That'd be great.
No problem.
Thank you.
Mr. Underwood?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Nelson, the bridge on 652, the CSX bridge, I guess, there on 652, the bridge seems to be a little higher than the road surface itself, about an inch. So every time you go over that, you're bumping pretty much on both sides of the bridge. Mm-hmm. Can we take a look at that, or?
Yeah, I mean, historically, bridge abutments generally settle, so we always have issues with those.
Right.
So we can have our maintenance guys go out and look and see if we can actually do some kind of.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Akers?
Mr. Black was inquiring about what I was going to ask about again, because it hasn't been cleared, and I did ask at the last meeting that we try to work and clear some of that brush away, but it's still there, so if you could see what could be done.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes. Mr. Nelson, a few months ago, we talked about, well, certainly not you, but the previous engineer, we talked about guardrails on 606 Stonewall Jackson Road. We came up, looked at them, and we're in the process of trying to determine what needs to be done, or we know kind of what needs to be done, but looking at some funding issues and seeing if there were ways that we could address that. So I don't know.
I will have to follow up with our traffic engineer, because if the guardrail is warranted, we can also look at that. But if it's not warranted, we generally don't put up guardrail where not warranted. So I'll go back and look at Mr. Duvall's notes to see if there's anything in that file.
We kind of came to the conclusion that it was definitely warranted. But anyway, if you would look into it, I would appreciate it.
That's it.
Yeah, that's all I have.
Mr. Nelson, just a couple of quick things. One is kind of a follow-up that was scheduled already. In the Belmont subdivision, you're shaking your head like you know. We've been working with VDOT for quite some time on some sidewalks and curbing and things that are somewhat substandard and falling apart. And I understand that VDOT was out there a month or so and marked everything, but they haven't come back to make the repairs. So.
We're in the process of working that in our plan. If the winter months are coming up now, we're gearing up for snow, so it may be sometime in the spring before we come back and actually finalize all the repairs within Belmont subdivision.
Is there a way to expedite that, since we had been waiting for?
I can see if we can expedite it. I'm totally aware of the situation. I used to live in Belmont myself.
So you probably broke the sidewalks before you left.
I probably did.
I needed that levity for a second, but it has been quite some time, though, and I think you'll understand the residents are a little frustrated with the original developer and the VDOT response. So if anything you could do to help us, it would be greatly appreciated. Mr. Fincham, would you make sure Mr. Nelson has your card, because you're going to be the point man on Belmont?
And it may be a situation where we may have to phase it in, because from what I understand, it's quite a bit of sidewalk.
If you could, there's a resident in the back who said his basic sidewalk curb is all cracked up and it's a hazard. So it could cost us a lot more money if somebody falls on the sidewalk and sues VDOT because it's your sidewalk and not the county's. And of course, we'd be on their side, or at least I would.
Got you, Mr. Thomas.
Okay. And the last thing is we've had some issues on the Carmel Church Loop, which is the new road that we've made around. It appears when they make the right turn off of 207 on the Carmel Church Loop, things are fine. But when they make that right turn to go back to where the truck stops are, the radius of that turn does not allow the trucks to make a smooth turn. They actually come into the opposing lane. So they're making a right turn off of 207, and then they make a right turn back into what was Coolwater Drive. And that radius on that last turn is so sharp that they basically come out into the road, and if you're stopped there waiting for them to turn, they could actually hit you. Okay. So that is a safety issue too, and if we could address that, I sure would appreciate it.
I will look into that.
You still live in the county?
No, I actually live in Richmond now.
Sorry to hear that.
I'm sorry too.
Thank you very much for your time and attendance. We appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks.
Okay, Virginia Retirement System, is that you, Mr. Parton?
I'm going to try to give a little background, Mr. Chairman, without getting too far in the weeds before turning it over to the subject matter expert. During the 2012 session of the General Assembly, of course, there were a number of significant changes made to the Virginia retirement system, primarily in an effort to save money. And one of the major changes was the creation of a hybrid retirement plan, which combines the traditional plan, which is a defined benefit plan, and a new defined contribution plan. That is effective January 1st, 2014. Employers hired on that date or after would automatically go into the hybrid plan. And you've also got so-called Plan 1 and Plan 2 employees that were hired back well before that date that have the option in a limited window of time to join the hybrid plan if they so choose. One of the things that goes along with the hybrid plan is participation in a disability benefit plan, which is known as the Virginia Local Disability Program, or VLDP. That was created as part of the changes in 2012. And it's that issue that we're here to talk about tonight. The county has a choice with regard to VLDP. It can either remain with VRS and participate in the VLDP program, or it can provide a comparable employer-paid plan for the hybrid employees. If we decide to opt out, which is the decision before you tonight, we have to do so no later than November 1st of this year. If we don't opt out by then, we're automatically enrolled in the VLDP program, and the decision is irrevocable either way. So in situations such as this, we often look to VACO or VACOR to see if they can identify a comparable plan that offers a better product and better rates. In this particular case, VACO is unable by state law to offer a disability product. But what they did do is joining forces with digital benefit advisors. They were able to go out and put out an RFP and review the products that are available in the marketplace and come back with a product that they think is better than the state plan, actually at a lower cost. So the plan that they are recommending, or that VACO has endorsed, is provided by a company known as Standard Insurance, and we believe, again, the plan is not only slightly better, but it's at a better rate, and we're recommending that we opt out of the plan. With that background, I'd like to introduce Nancy Grasso with Digital Benefit Advisors. She worked directly with VACO in going through this process, and if she seems familiar to her, it's because she's also the county's benefit advisor, which has worked in our favor in this particular case. With that, I'll introduce Nancy.
No pressure, Mrs. Grasso, because the last time we saw you, you saved us like $200,000 or $300,000.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping to do the same again, sir. Good evening. Thank you for having me tonight. I think that Alan Parton did a great job of kind of summing up exactly what the issue at hand is. A couple of notes that I just wanted to address is this is an unfunded mandate that is required of the county to provide to all the members that are VRS eligible. So effective 2014, January 1st of 2014, the issue is not whether or not to provide this because it's been mandated. It's just where do we actually get the product and how do we deliver it to our employees, the employees of our company. So having said that, I went out to the marketplace to look for a vendor who actually could have an A rating and be really secure and make sure that when the time comes to pay disability claims that they'd be out there. One of the things that I thought was really important was to make sure that we had a comparable plan. So in all aspects of the law, it's comparable. So we actually took the language and the letter of the law and replicated it. So every single item in the code has been replicated in this particular product. And because we can deliver it at a lower rate, I think that it's advisable to go into this program. The irrevocability of the product into VRS is what concerns me the most. I think it's important for us to have our sovereign ability to purchase whatever it is that we want to purchase without having to be irrevocably in a product. So really, the VRS product is designed to potentially have a rate increase in July of 2014. So, and some of the products that we've seen in the past, historically, when they're irrevocable, such as the Line of Duty Act, we've seen those rates go up substantially, and once you are in that product's portfolio, you can never leave. So we're recommending a better rate with a better product and having the sovereign ability to stay outside of the market. Many people during this process have asked me what happens when the rates do go up and what is my role. And just to expand on that a little bit, my role within the relationship that we have with VACORP is to make sure that The rates that we're providing today with this standard insurance product are guaranteed for 3 years. So even though VRS has this opportunity to raise rates in July, the rates for the standard product will stay consistent for 3 years. Once that 3-year time period is up, we'll actually have membership. The one thing you need to think of is that on January 1st, 2014 will be the first day that we have population. So in 3 years from now, we'll have membership, and this will be something that we could actually go out to market and compete. And I personally believe that there will be a very strong market to be competitive, and it would behoove us to stay out of the VRS product, to opt out, and to stay in the private market.
Questions? In the summary we have, it says the rates are valid for 3 years?
They are.
Okay, so we have a fixed...
You have a fixed guaranteed rate for 3 years. And what's also really important is that this VACORP product has been priced so that all members, all counties, governments, schools, any municipalities, everybody has the same rate. So that if your performance is bad, we know this from health insurance, right? If your performance is bad, your rates will not go up any more than anybody else. So you're kind of all pulled together and helping each other keep rates consistent. So we feel that even though they're guaranteed for 3 years, they'll be very consistent and we believe much lower than what VRS will continue to put out there.
And this is based on, excuse me, this is a result of the state's liability for retirement.
I believe so.
Because we've got X number of people retiring, they're going to get X number of benefits over so long, and we don't really have the money to match their benefits.
I think, yes, I think you're correct, but I think more importantly is that, and I don't want to get too much in the weeds here, but being that you asked the question, I think today when you have a person who, so if we take this population of 1 and 2s, the people who are not hybrids, the way that their disability is handled today is with this very large accrual of sick time. So when somebody works for the county or for one of the schools, they end up having this accrued sick time. And many counties and governments around the state have these buyout options at the end. So when they retire out, they can buy or use their sick time accumulated that has not been used for money or insurance benefits or whatnot. So I think that unfunded liability is what is trying to be mitigated by moving into this insured product moving forward.
All right. I don't think we have any, do you have questions?
2. And I guess you started to answer it as I was wondering what upfront liability are we already currently paying this? So do we have to front end load this with some amount of money based on the number of retirees that we'll have in this program?
No, so it's not like a GASB type of a situation. So what happens is as effective 1/1/14, you'll hire your first person, and at that time there's a price and a calculation, and the price is on a per month basis. So you won't pay for anybody until they're actually insured and employed. Anybody who's a 1 and 2 who is employed prior to January 1st does not have the option to get this plan. So theoretically, you're going to have 2 separate benefit options, one for your plan 1 and 2 people, and a whole separate new benefit option for the hybrid folks that is not available to your 1s and 2s. But that being said, you won't have to fund it for your 1s and 2s. So you really won't really feel that funding until your 1s and 2s retire out and you're hiring more and more hybrids. So it'll slowly become a bigger liability over time.
So the county is paying this portion and the employer, just the county? This portion of this new system? Because currently we have teachers paying.
This is not a retirement benefit, it's a disability benefit.
Just disability.
The retirement benefit works, there's the contribution by the employee and all that. This is entirely funded by the county. The disability piece is entirely funded by the county, and the employees do not pay any of it.
Okay.
Yeah, it was an unfunded mandate, really.
Surprise, surprise. Okay, so your recommendation, again, just to make clear, is that we opt out of the program?
Yes, my recommendation would be to opt out of the VRS program and buy this coverage through the standard insurance product.
Do you have a sort of updated number of jurisdictions that have opted out? I know that's been a moving target, but...
Sure, it is